Hey, I am Sean, the owner and lead tutor of Math Swap Tutoring, and today I want to talk a little bit about other careers that are math-based that you may not have thought about. So, if you know about me, you know that I am of the engineering background. I got my bachelor's and my master's degrees in electrical and electronics engineering, and I spent over 14 years working in the industry before I opened Math Swap Tutoring. So I am from a traditional STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics background. And there are a lot of different type of careers that we think about when we think about math, when we think about STEM, that are kind of like what I call like your typical career. So let's look at those real quick. So you have engineers like me, electronics, electrical engineers, software engineers, computer engineers, biomedical engineers, mechanical engineers, civil engineers, nuclear engineers, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There's lots of different types of engineering fields out there. Okay. Then you also have physicists. Physicists are, well, that practice is very closely related. Physics actually is a very crucial part of engineering. Computer programming, one of the biggest STEM fields that there is. Matter of fact, and I'll even say this, computer programming is very much associated with engineering these days. As an engineer myself, a lot of what I did was computer programming, software engineering, computer programming. Matter of fact, where I worked, there were people who were hired on as biomedical, mechanical engineers, things that you don't necessarily think so much about computer programming about. But main thing I'm saying is almost all engineers program, at least from my experience. Now, I can't necessarily say that for, I guess, civil, but I wouldn't be surprised because it's the way of the world these days. Information technology, just managing, just the processing and the transfer of information, through computers and whatnot, and the internet and whatnot. Information technology systems, all of the technology infrastructure in buildings and all of that type of stuff, the wiring and the setting up of different type of software, all that type of stuff. Data analysts, it's kind of like another level with that, analyzing data, again, having to do with computers and whatnot, because computer, like the internet and all that, it's all about the transfer of data. Math teacher, that's pretty self-explanatory, essentially educating the future STEM career individuals, people who go into STEM career fields, whether that's elementary, middle, high school, or college, like the professor level. So these are the typical things that we think about. But the reason why I'm recording this video is because I want you to understand that what we typically think about as STEM is not all that there is. You might be somebody who loves math, but you don't want to program. Okay. You might be somebody who actually wants to really do math. So I'll say this too. A lot of these careers that I've mentioned here, aside from math teacher and whatnot, you may not necessarily be doing math in your career. It doesn't mean that you won't be, but unless you're doing what's called the R&D, which is research and development, a lot of times you're going to be programming because a lot of the math has been put inside of software such that you don't really have to do it these days unless you're developing new technology, unless you're developing new software, you're developing new ways of doing things. And so you might be working on software and putting the math inside the software. Now, let's talk about some other careers that you may or may not have thought about that are heavily math-based, that require true math skill, that you may have not thought about before, but could be something you're interested in, okay? So let's see. The first one I want to talk about here is what's called an economist. Now, so an economist is one who studies the economy, essentially the way that the economy in this country, or maybe on a lower level, kind of ebbs and flows. A lot of times what I think about is like the person who's over the chairman of the Federal Reserve, is, kind of like an example of an economist who sees the ebb and flow of the real estate market, the ebb and flow of the technology market, the ebb and flow of all of these different type of things, just to be able to kind of identify opportunities, what is going to be growing, what's going to be the next big thing in the economy. Very math based, because you're looking at various mathematical figures based on the way that businesses are programming, based on the value of different materials that are being used in the world. When I say materials, precious metals, even foods, all that type of stuff. So that's what an economist does. Very math based. You have what's called an actuary. So an actuary is a person who analyzes risk in business. When businesses are making decisions on what they're going to do, an actuary is someone who helps the business actually analyze mathematically the level of risk associated in a decision that a business is going to make. Very, very important, very key, because businesses are always trying to see what they need to venture into. And so a person who's an actuary is going to help them make not a guess, but a mathematically based decision on whether or not what they're going to go into is a good decision or not. You have what's called a financial analyst. No, bad spelling. Let's correct that. Analyst. So financial analysts help businesses and individuals make decisions about investments. So, looking at, for example, whether or not they'll, buy stock in a company or something like that. And so a financial analyst will look at the various percentages, rates, and associated numbers and help a business or an individual decide, okay, should I actually invest my money in this? Is this something that I can put my money in so that my money will grow? Very, very important. Very closely related to that, is even like a stockbroker, somebody who buys stocks and who spends their time analyzing the markets to see whether or not a company or a fund is something that's good to invest in. Very, very heavily math based. Really, what I want to say on this note is business and finances are very, very heavily math based. Not typically what you think about when you think about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Because a lot of times STEM stuff is always often associated with technology. But business and finance are very heavy math based areas that you can actually utilize your math skill in. You also have what's called an auditor. A lot of times when people think about auditors, they think about like taxes and whatnot, and people who come and see if you've been cheating on your taxes. But it's not necessarily all that is. So auditors review financial records to ensure their accuracy, make sure that, people are, that stuff is being inserted right. Because financial records are so important for businesses and organizations, whether it comes to like them growing or making sure that their taxes are accurate, different things like that, making sure you're not losing money, and so on and so forth. You have what's called a statistician. The key word in there is the statistics. Statistician. So statisticians collect, analyze, and present data from surveys and experiments. A lot of times, even how you have like whenever elections come around and you have people who are analyzing, okay, these people, it seems like this percentage of people is preferring for this law to be passed, or different things like that. So using math to analyze data gathered from surveys, from experiments, to see kind of general trends and stuff in a variety of different areas, again, from politics to health and medical research to all kinds of stuff. It could be a toy factory that employs statisticians to kind of see what kids are liking these days, stuff like that. and so on and so forth. The main thing I want to say is, if you want to be an engineer, if you want to be a physicist, whatever, that's great. That's what I went into. But also don't limit yourself to just thinking that technology-based STEM is all that you can use math in. There's a lot. I could have said something about, you know, automotive engineering or audio engineers, meteorologists, I don't know. I just looked outside and I see a basketball goal out there. You might design a basketball goal, but that's not necessarily what people think about immediately whenever they think about STEM. I mean, whenever they think about math-based careers. So don't limit yourself. What I would encourage you to do as I close this video out is to think about the type of things you're interested in. And especially if you like math and you like the idea of doing something that's kind of like based in or around math, think about things you're interested in designing, or if you're interested in money and making money grow, or interested in helping other people grow their businesses, other kind of stuff. The possibilities are pretty endless, but it doesn't always have to be related to programming. If you want to program, that's fine too, of course. I just don't want you to limit your thinking to, well, I gotta be a programmer. I gotta do something that has to do with a computer, designing computers and all that kind of stuff. It's not like that. Okay. So hopefully this helps you to open your mind and do your own research regarding what you can do with your love for math. Okay. Hope this helps you out.